Okay, so Anthropic just rolled out something called Claude Cowork. And honestly, it might just change how we think about AI assistants. We're not just talking about another chatbot here. This is a huge leap from a simple chat buddy to, well, an actual hands-on member of your team. It's a pretty big deal, so let's dive in and break down what this is all about. You know that feeling, right? You're using an AI chatbot, you get this amazing output, and then the real work starts. All that tedious copy-pasting, moving stuff from one window to another, reformatting everything, it's just a total workflow killer. Well, what if that whole frustrating step just disappeared? What if there was a tool that could eliminate that friction completely?
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at what makes this a new kind of AI. Then, we'll get into its pretty surprising origin story, how it went from code to cowork. After that, we'll see how it actually works, as your new AI coworker. We'll also cover some really important stuff on how to handle it with care. And finally, we'll talk about how you can actually try it out.
All right, let's jump right into our first section, a new kind of AI. The whole idea here is that we're moving way beyond just chatting with an AI. We're talking about a tool that takes autonomous action. This isn't about asking questions and getting answers anymore. It's about an AI that can actually do things for you on its own.
So think about it like this. Your standard chatbot, it's totally reactive. It just sits there and waits for you to type something. But Claude Cowork, it's proactive. You give it a goal, and it actually creates and executes its own plan. The chatbot is isolated, right? You're the one doing all the copy-pasting. Cowork is integrated. It works directly on your files. It's the difference between a constant back-and-forth conversation and an autonomous assistant that just works on tasks in the background for you. It's a whole different ballgame.
And I love how Anthropic themselves put it. They said, it feels much less like a back-and-forth and much more like leaving messages for a coworker. That just nails it, doesn't it? You're not micromanaging a tool, you're delegating. You just give it the goal, the files it needs, and you let it go to work. Okay, so how did we even get to this point? The story of how this thing came to be is, well, it's pretty unexpected. Let's dive into that next.
Believe it or not, this all started with something called Claude Code. It was a tool that Anthropic built specifically for software developers. To help them write code, fix bugs, that kind of thing. A pretty niche tool for a very specific audience. Or so they thought.
But then something really funny happened. Anthropic said it themselves. They expected developers to use it for coding, which they did, but then they started using it for pretty much everything else. People were organizing their files, drafting emails, managing their projects with this coding tool. It was this huge aha moment for Anthropic. They realized, whoa, we haven't just built a better tool for programmers, we've stumbled onto a whole new way for everyone to work with AI.
And that discovery is what led directly to the tool we have today. So let's talk about it. Your new AI coworker. How does this thing actually work? What does it look like in practice? Let's get into the details. Okay, so the process is actually super simple. It's basically 3 steps. First, you grant access. You just give Claude permission to see one specific folder on your computer, and that's it. It can't go snooping around anywhere else. Second, you provide instructions. You just tell it what you want to do in plain, everyday language. And third, Claude executes the plan. But here's the cool part. Before it does anything, it actually makes a plan, shows it to you, and only after you approve it does it get to work on your files. So what can it actually do? Well, the possibilities are pretty amazing. You know that downloads folder that's a total disaster? You can just tell Claude to reorganize it. Done. Or how about this? You've got a folder full of screenshots of your expenses. You can ask it to create a spreadsheet from all of them. It can even take a bunch of your scattered notes and whip up a first draft of a report. It can create business documents, presentations, and get this, it can even work on multiple tasks at the same time in parallel. Pretty wild, right?
Okay, now this all sounds incredible, and it is. But before we all get too carried away, we need to talk about some really important warnings. This is a powerful tool, and we need to handle it with care.
The most important thing to remember is this. Claude Cowork is currently a research preview. That's basically tech speak for beta version. It's not a finished, polished product. It's Anthropic's way of saying, hey, we're still figuring this out, things might not work perfectly, and it might break. So you got to go in with that mindset.
And there are a couple of key risks you absolutely need to understand. The first one is file deletion. If your instructions aren't crystal clear, Claude could misunderstand and, delete files you didn't want it to. The second risk is something called prompt injection. This is where malicious stuff from the web could potentially hijack Claude's plans.
So the bottom line is you have to be super careful and very clear with your instruction.
Which leads us to probably the single most important piece of advice from Anthropic themselves: keep separate backups of any files you give Cowork access to. Seriously. Think of the folder you share with it as a sandbox, a place to play and experiment. Don't, and I mean don't, put your only copy of critical documents in there.
All right, so with all those warnings in mind, if you're still thinking, okay, I get it, I want to try this thing, let's talk about how you can do that.
So for now, the availability is a little limited. First off, you need to be on a Mac, using the Mac OS app. Second, you need to be a Claude Max subscriber. That's their top-tier plan. And again, just to remind you, the status is still beta, or research preview. So if you do get in, you're essentially an early tester. Now, for all you Windows users out there, don't feel left out. Anthropic has confirmed that Windows support is planned, they just haven't announced a release date yet. So, for the moment, it's Mac only, but we'll have to keep an eye out for updates. So all of this leaves us with a pretty massive question, doesn't it? Is your next coworker an AI? I mean, when these tools go from just being passive assistants to being active collaborators, it really starts to change the whole nature of work. The future's coming at us fast. So I'll just leave you with this to think about. What's the very first task you would give to your new AI coworker?